Amber Heard has revealed she plans to appeal after losing her defamation case against her former husband, Johnny Depp. Joining me live is the principal lawyer of Macedone Legal, Sam Macedone. How are you this morning?
Yes, very well, thank you, Janie.
So let me ask you, what do you think Amber Heard's chances of succeeding the appeal are?
Look, she's got a right to appeal, but I personally don't think that her chances are all that good because the decision that was made on a factual basis. And appeal courts don't really want to look at whether the facts are correct or not. They have to be satisfied that the decision was so unreasonable in relation to the facts that were given in evidence that it ought to be set aside. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Johnny Depp lost the case in the UK. Why do you think he won in the US?
I think he won in the US because his legal team were able to get into Heard's credibility a lot better than what they did in the United Kingdom. In other words, every allegation that Heard made, they seemed to have an answer for it, and they seemed to be able to cross-examine her in such a way that there was some doubt about the allegations that she made, and that's what they concentrated on in the United States as opposed to in the United Kingdom.
And Sam, there has been some talk about the potential of this trial perhaps preventing some women coming forward with their own abuse situations. What do you think on that?
Look, that may be the case, but I doubt it very much. Women in general that complain about domestic violence have always had a stage, and they've always been listened to, and actions are always taken. And I don't really think that because one person who made allegations was disproved, that all the other people that suffer domestic violence would have the same fate. I think if they come forward, they will be looked after quite well. I mean, look at the Me Too movement and the high-profile people there that have been outed. So it's a situation where, at the moment, if you've been the subject of violence in a domestic relationship, you can speak up and you should speak up and you will be heard. The only problem is if you tell fibs or if you make allegations that are not true, you'll suffer the consequences.
Sam, why do they televise these court hearings? We see it on TikTok, we see people in pubs and clubs celebrating the results.
This is something that's really strange. You'd never see it here in Australia. It can only happen in the States, I'd imagine, but it's not something that's common. You look at, Johnny Depp had a huge social media following. I mean, TikTok alone had 19 billion views in relation to this trial, all favouring Depp. It's just something that doesn't happen that often, and personally, I don't think it should. This is something that should really be for a jury to decide and not the whole public making comments about it, because jury take notes of what other people think.
What do you think perhaps the advice Amber Heard got prior to writing that initial article?
I think she would have been told to be very careful not to say anything that could be attributed to anyone in particular, especially her husband, Johnny Depp. She published the article on the basis that she didn't mention his name, but it was quite obvious when you read it who she was referring to, and that's why she fell subject to this defamation case that was brought against her. However, at the end of the day, the judge believed that 12 of the 14 allegations she made against him were true, were substantially true. Therefore, there was no defamation.
And in law terms, what is defamation? Is it exactly the same here as it is in the UK, the US?
It's the same all over the world. Defamation is where you say something that injures someone's reputation or brings them down, and what you say is untruthful. If it's the truth or substantially the truth, what you say, then you won't be guilty of defamation. I mean, you can call a stick, but you can't call it a tree.
And how do you think Johnny Depp will go now with work in the movie world and other...
I think he did this primarily to get his reputation back. And as he said, his life has now come back to him. He had very little opportunities of starring in movies while this thing was going for the last 2 years. He now says he feels that things will open up, and I think you'll find that he'll get more and more offers to appear in movies now that he's cleared his name.
Well, it's been very interesting over the last 6 weeks to witness, but to really appreciate your time and expertise. As always, Sam Macedone, take care.
Thank you, Janie. Pleasure.